Talk about a shocker. The Vegas Golden Knights have fired head coach Gerard Gallant. And I gotta tell you, usually I'm the first one to go out there and say, you know what, walk them out the door, do it. They did terrible. They struggled, they had their chance, they got a good talented team in front of them, they didn't do so. Walk them out the door. This time, I don't have an explanation for it. I mean, you go and you look at Vegas, currently 24, 19, and 6, 2 points, or tied for a playoff or wildcard spot right now, 3 points out of first place in their division. I mean, sure, they're on a 4-game losing streak, but the more important and glaring thing here is, do you know who the Vegas Golden Knights are? Sometimes I wonder if the ownership knew who the Vegas Golden Knights were 2.5 years ago. This was an expansion team, and in case you didn't know, expansion teams never go well, ever. Every time you get an expansion team, it takes them a few years to, go out there, rebuild. If you don't recall, Vegas had a record-setting season being an expansion team that not only had 109 points, but they made it to the Stanley Cup in their first year. And if you don't quite recall properly here, this was also a Vegas Golden Knights team who went out to an expansion draft, selected their players in the expansion draft, and everybody laughed at them and said how bad their team was going to be. Like, look at all these nobodies these guys got stuck with. All these guys nobody wanted. Teams were like, go ahead and take them for the most part. Maybe 2 or 3 teams worried about losing, one of their better players. Everybody else was like, just take them. Enjoy them and have a good time, right? Take the contract off our hands while we're at it. Everybody was like, there ain't a chance. These guys will take forever to rebuild. But they didn't. Not the rebuild, but the build in general, they didn't. You know why? Because Gallant was a great coach for this team. He fired these guys up. He got them playing their best hockey, period. I mean, you look at a lot of those guys, you know why they played so well that year? Because they had a, shall we say, an outlier season where they just went out there and did absolutely unthinkable things. They played beyond their means. A bunch of players had career years on that Vegas Golden Knights team. Again, you got to look back at the coach and say they did a great job of coaching them up, firing them up. And even last season, the team finished, what, second in the division? Sure, they lost in 7 to the Sharks or whatever in the playoffs, but a pretty solid Sharks team to be losing to right there, first of all. And again, we talk about this season, the resume's there, but I don't know how this guy has this short of a leash at the end of the day. You go back, you can't forget what he did with this team in their inception year and go ahead and not, say that's on the resume now, consider it and give him a short leash. Like, how does this guy's leash this short? So short that this team's still 5 games above 500 and they lose just because they lose 4 games or 4 and 6 in their last 10. Like, what are you trying to prove here? I don't understand that. I mean, you didn't see imagine the Tampa Bay Lightning fired their coach about 15 games ago. Yeah, because they sucked then, right? Because now they're on what, like a 13 out of 15 straight wins or something ridiculous like that. Sometimes teams go through spells. Teams go through spells, a month and a half. You gotta, that's what's crazy about some teams. Some teams you can see it coming, a few months down the road, or this season before you was unpleased with your coach. But teams do go through spells where they go and they lose a game or they lose a lot of games in a month or a month and a half. But that's why the leash is a little bit longer for most proven coaches. And at this point in time, you have to say Gallant's a proven coach. You can argue this guy after seeing what he did with the Vegas Golden Knights team, a team that most people would be telling you maybe year 3, maybe year 4 they're competitive, and yet once again here we are. They've been competitive 3 straight seasons under this guy, and he's proven that he can take what he's got, get the most out of them. It's surprising. I don't know. The expectations were crazy high for Vegas this year. I don't know how you have high expectations. I mean, you look at this roster, it's still a lot of the guys they got from the expansion draft. They're getting older as years go by. Clearly here, this one don't really make sense to me. I guess, you would think maybe there's a different way to shake things up in the NHL, but it's appearing the meta of the NHL is just fire your coach. You don't have, you go on a bad skid of loss, just fire the coach, change things up, no big deal. I don't know.